What's happening? My name is Joe, and what I'd like to talk about in this video is a personal story. And quite simply, what I'd like to do is kind of take a different approach to a lot of the videos that are out there on personal development. On a quick story, quick backstory really, is that a few years ago, let's just say 4 years ago, I had an epiphany. This epiphany started through a period, or while I was going through a period of some really dark times. And what I mean by dark times is nothing evil or to the point of suicidal or anything like that. When I say dark times, I mean simply, generally speaking, borderline depression. I wasn't to the point where I was taking any antidepressants or anything of that matter, but I think we all get to a place where we wish we were happier. And once this, and this might happen on a daily or quite frequent basis. For me, this happened over a period of, consecutively over a period of a few months. And it got to a time where I was just, once it happens over and over and over, you kind of get stuck in that mindset. You get stuck in that rut of negativity. That feels negative, feels horrible. Nothing happens in any positive circumstances don't seem to come your way. Most everything that happens, even if it's a good thing, just feels like it's got a negative connotation to it. For example, if you're having one of your shitty days, which is typical when you're in that sort of state, and someone calls you up and gives you some good news, you're just like, the good news doesn't even lift you up. It's just like, that's cool, You talk as if you should talk, not how you feel like talking. Whereas when you're in a heightened state, in a good state, in a productive, progressive, happy state, if someone calls and gives you good news, your response may be, "Oh, really? Dude, that's awesome." Like, you're really happy for that person. They can feel it in your voice, and you can feel the excitement when you tell them this. So sometimes this is referred to as the dark night of the soul, although that has varying degrees of it as well. Sometimes that can be very dark, if you read other reports or listen to other reports of people's experience with that. But mine was a general sense of minor depression, and I recognized that I was in it. That was the first key. A lot of people don't recognize they're in it, but I'm usually a pretty upbeat and positive person, so I knew that something was off. And so what I did was I Googled positive videos, positive thinking videos. And what happened was a small video came up on YouTube by a gentleman named Leo from Actualize.org. I'd like to give a prop to Leo. His first video on positive thinking was a short video on, he basically just told his little Zen story, which was the onset of it, and then he talked a little bit afterwards. And that Zen story kind of put things into perspective in a general way for me, which was good. But more importantly than that, it got me into the idea that there was some personal development stuff I could have access to at any time on YouTube. At the time, I was doing some low voltage contracting work, and I had a tool belt and kind of worked by myself, installing low voltage systems, camera systems, network systems, and that sort of thing. So I would just put on my Bluetooth headphones, drop the phone in the tool bag, hit play, and carry on throughout my day. And I did this, and his first little video, Leo's first video, resonated so well with me that I kind of had it on autoplay. So it played 2 or 3 of his videos, and then I searched for some more stuff, and I found some other things by Tony Robbins and things that were in the line with my search query of positive thinking. But what was amazing is that led me on to another path of seeking out audio information while I worked. So I was doing this career of mine 5 days a week, 8, 10-hour days sometimes 6-hour days, whatever, but I also drove a lot between here and there. And so what I'd do was I would play these things in my car, and when I would get to the location of my job site, I would play these things in my headphones. So I was infiltrating my mind with videos on positive thinking, personal development, and what came through also was law of attraction things, pretty consistently on a day-to-day basis for a few months. Let's say 3 to 4 months. And some of the authors that I stumbled upon while I was doing this was first and foremost Leo from Actualize.org, Tony Robbins, of course, the big names that you have out there. There was also Jim Rohn, which was a really good one. Jim Rohn was Tony Robbins' mentor. There's a lot of good videos out there from Jim Rohn. They're very inspiring and motivational. They don't necessarily talk about law of attraction. I guess some of them do if you really listen to them, but he was more on motivation and personal development and the style of doing that. Tony Robbins, if you don't know about Tony Robbins, you should, but if you don't, almost everyone knows Tony Robbins. He talks about personal development and the idea of psychology and action, and he's just got tons of stuff out there. He kind of hits it from all angles. So that was very empowering as well as motivational. Leo from actualize.org was very good, but he gets very kind of, what's the word for it? Kind of his teachings are a little bit more esoteric, so he kind of will go off and kind of down the rabbit hole, so to speak, and kind of take you there. And it's good information. So if you're into that sort of thing, I'd recommend listening to some of that stuff. Take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes it's can be not for everybody, but it's definitely enlightening for those who are willing to go down that rabbit hole. Some other good ones from way back in the day. These helped me out a lot. There was a couple profound videos. One of them was from Napoleon Hill, a long time ago, called let's see. He wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. So there were some audio clips I found from Napoleon Hill, which are very inspiring and motivational. They also tap into the law of attraction and those sort of scenarios, but they talk about how to actually put it into practice in a day-to-day basis, which is very interesting. A lot of videos you see now are more motivational, but from the older videos in that realm of personal development, they were more geared, from what I found in my experience, towards actually putting practice together. So basically what I mean by that is putting an actual day-to-day routine in practice that causes these things to manifest in your life. Again, in contrast to modern videos, which you'll find on YouTube on law of attraction and personal development, they talk about the philosophy behind it all and kind of doing meditations and this sort of thing, which, don't get me wrong, those are great. They're fantastic. They're motivational. But sometimes they don't have just the blanket instructional points that I found on some of the older videos. Another really good one was by Earl Nightingale called The Strangest Secret. I highly recommend this one. This was very powerful. Between this one, a couple videos by Jim Rohn, and then there was another small video I found called The Little Red Book That Makes Your Dreams Come True. This was very inspiring, and it talked about the same law of attraction, universal principles that are out there. And I would highly recommend that one as well, the Little Red Book That Makes Your Dreams Come True. It's a motivational book, but it also is very instructional in that way. So I'm leaving the best for last, because for me personally, I stumbled across this gentleman in the midst of about 3 to 4 months of finding these videos. And what I liked about the next gentleman I'm going to talk to you about quickly was his tone of voice and his demeanor. It was very calm and collected. This is Wayne Dyer. And if you don't know Wayne Dyer, unfortunately he passed away a few years ago, actually just a couple years ago. Actually, I think it was in 2017. I could be wrong on that, but I know that it was either late 2016 or 2017. I should know this, but ever since he passed away, I kind of, in that mentorship that he gave me, I've kind of been at a loss, really searching for someone, and I don't really recall much of the day that he passed away because I was hit so hard by it. And I honestly mean that. He was the most influential person who had the biggest impact on my life that I've never met in person. I was actually scheduled to see him in Orlando, Florida, and I was purchasing tickets to see him when I heard about his passing. So that was extremely upsetting for me, actually. But nonetheless, he's a New York Times bestseller. If you haven't heard of him, just Google Wayne Dyer. There's plenty of stuff out there on YouTube. He's got many books out there that are on the New York Times bestseller list, so you can audiobook a lot of his books as well. But what Wayne Dyer did for me is he kind of extrapolated the laws of the universe, the law of attraction, as well as, believe it or not, spiritual teachings, if you will, that are found in ancient literature, even in the Christian Bible. And he never really crossed any boundaries that I found. In other words, he never discredited anything, but not in a way of accepting everything either. It was more along the lines of personal and spiritual progress and development. I can't say enough good things about Wayne Dyer. And what happened is, after, again, 3 or 4 months of listening to all his videos, combined with all the other authors that I previously spoke of, there was this sense that I started to feel that something was going to happen. Again, I was doing low voltage contracting at the time, and I just felt that, a little backstory again, I was in a situation where I was on a contract that it was good, it was very stable, but it wasn't paying me what I needed, which is a common theme for people these days when you have desires and you're kind of stuck in a place financially. You have this desire to get out, and desire is a good thing. Frustration can be a good thing. Depression can even be a good thing. It's a great motivator. So I felt this desire to get out, and it wasn't really even caused by my current situation. That I'm speaking of the depressive state that I was in. It was more like I knew that there was something better for me out there, and I was just doing this to get by, and I needed this time to reflect and actually hear this information that I was getting from all these authors. You see, I would get out of work at 3 o'clock, and so it was a 7 to 3 gig or something of that nature. So I actually had a lot of time between 3 and the rest of the night to put these things into practice. Now remember, I was listening to this stuff between 7 and 3 all day. So there was a lot of infiltration into my mind of these principles and these concepts and these ideas and these teachings. And so between 3 or 4 months, maybe it was after 4 months, I started to feel this idea that something was going to happen. I felt like either my contract with my the low voltage contract I had was going to shift. I was going to get a better one. It was going to be a relationship that I was going to stumble into. I felt like I was maybe even going to stumble into some money, like I was about to win the lottery or something. And that's what it felt like. There was this anticipation. And it was hard to put into words. I even remember telling my family about it and some close friends. I remember specifically saying, I don't know what's going on, but something's about to happen. I don't know what it is. I probably made some videos on it. I was shooting video back then. However, it was very raw, and I never really uploaded too much of them. And I'll probably go back and do some of that now as I capture the progress and as I share it. But I watched a movie by Wayne Dyer that he did called The Shift. And this was a YouTube video that I watched. And when I watched the movie The Shift, about, I'd say halfway to 3/4 of the way through it, it was like that final piece of that puzzle that you're trying to find. And when you put it in place, like the whole thing makes sense. It clicked. And I realized that's what was going on with me. My consciousness was shifting. I was changing a vibration frequency to a higher vibration. Now, I wouldn't have known it at the time because I was in it and I was transitioning, but once I was able to put all the practices together between all the authors I spoke about previously a few minutes ago and the example that Wayne Dyer was explaining in his movie The Shift, it was crystal clear to me what was happening in my mind. And so the second I watched that movie, like I said, about 3/4 of the way through, it clicked. And I can tell you that since that day, this was about a little over 4 years ago, I have never been the same. And I can't say it was virtually overnight, because for a good, 2 to 4 weeks, I had this feeling that was coming. But once I watched the movie, The Shift, it was virtually overnight, that being my recognition of what was happening to me. So I've spoken about this many times. I've made numerous videos on it, and I'll continue to talk about it the rest of my life, because it felt honestly like that thing that you feel like you're searching for your entire life, perhaps even when you were a kid. It feels like you found it. It's the most amazing feeling, because everything changes. And I remember a quote from Wayne Dyer. He said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And he even breaks us down into a quantum physics idea. And I won't get into that now, but there's some more stuff out there that proves literally what he's saying, that if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Research that on quantum physics, and you'll see that science will prove this, that is very much true. And it shows the power of observation, the power of thought, and the power of manifestation, and that sort of thing. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this video up because there's so much more I want to talk about, but that's just my basic explanation, personal experience of how I started to shift. I really didn't do much meditation or anything then. I did, but it was very raw, very elementary meditation. I've got since then I've gotten very, very much more experience in meditation, and my practice has evolved, and I've learned some new techniques that I'm willing to share. I'm excited to share them, actually, and yeah, so it's a lot of good stuff coming. I just wanted to put this out there first because I've always wanted to do a short video that explained my personal experience, not in a teaching sort of way, but more in a relation sort of way. If you're going through anything similar, listen, you got to put the practice in, and it's really just training your mind over and over and over. It's the repetition of, I don't like the word fake it till you make it, but really just be authentic every day in your pursuit of something better, and then you will find that it sort of just all of a sudden soaks in, and before you know it, you're like, what is this feeling? What am I feeling? And what you're feeling is the positivity, the vibration. You start to resonate with more positive vibrations. You know, it's been said that if you take a guitar and you put it against the wall, and you take another guitar and you put it on this wall, and you pluck the string on this guitar over here without even touching it, the same string on that guitar will start to vibrate as well. Because frequencies cause resonance with each other. And so if our thoughts and our emotions resonate and have an outward expansion of feeling, and you can feel this when you walk into a room or you walk into someone's presence who is resonating a happy or not happy feeling, you will pick up on that. Get it? Pick up. You will pick up on that feeling. Well, that feeling is a frequency, and in the same way the guitars resonate with each other, people resonate with us. So if you're in the mindset of doing better or feeling better, what you need to do is surround yourself with people from a higher vibration, or that are putting out a higher vibration, and essentially putting out the kind of vibrations that you yourself would like to put out. So with that being said, I'm going to end on that note. I'm going to wrap this one up, and I really appreciate it. Thumb it up if you like the video. Any comments? I'd love to hear some comments on your thoughts, especially if you have any experiences that resonate with this or that are similar. I'd love to hear about them. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Joe out.